What made you lose respect for someone? My friend has puked multiple times on nights when we go out drinking and I can't take it anymore. Lamal. An old boss of mine who made great money started going out with someone who was way less fortunate. She started using his access to a food bank and bragged about how much money she was saving on groceries. One ex-friend of mine once said I need to be admired by everyone around me. I immediately lose all respect for him. Finished the friendship a few months after it. As a board gamer, when people start huffing and puffing and getting steamed that they're losing, like I understand getting irritated. Especially if it's a Euro game and you realize you're not going to win and there's still 2 hours left of play. But flicking pieces around and stomping is an absolute no-no. 1. She could not be alone. Always on the hunt for a man. 2. She refused to move with her husband to another state after her husband could not find a job here, because she did not want to leave her grown and married son. 3. Who is a spoiled, douchey frat bro, misogynist who constantly lied and lived off of his wife's income while bragging about his non-existent business acumen, frat bro connection because no one would hire him for. The final straw, after her husband left she dug up a crush from decades prior and tried to seduce him out of his marriage and family. I ran into her recently and found out that she's not with her old crush, her husband died of COVID-19 and she's not vaccinated because the vaccine contains prions, untrue, which they proved because the magnet stuck to the upper arm site post-vaccination. I get that prions may elude her, but most 5th graders understand how magnets work. A cousin I always looked up to as a kid got into drugs as an adult and made a long line of poor decisions as a result. He became the kind of guy he would have never let me date. He made and sold meth, he got into fights, he hit his women. He was in and out of jail my whole life, but I still held him in esteem and honestly thought that if he could get clean he would be the man I thought he was. And he was always in his 4 kids' lives, provided for them, and kept them in touch with the family. I admired that. He crashed at a motorcycle at 40 and died. At his funeral I learned of 3 children we never knew about because they were born to strung-out mothers and removed at birth. It took this for my vision of him to clarify. He was not a good guy addicted. He was a bad guy, the whole time. A boss/manager competing with their rank-and-file employees. Like why though? Best friend of decades thought the correct response to my mother's death was to reply to the Facebook post. No call. Didn't come to the funeral. I've been to 2 of his family funerals. My best friend from college totally freaked out over his girlfriend wanting to call it quits. He made a fool of himself trying to win her back with every gimmick he could think of, including dressing up like a knight in shining armor. It was so sad to see a smart and funny guy totally melt down before my eyes. He really thought that there was some grand movie type gesture that would win her back. When those failed, he got really nasty and hostile with her. I never spoke to him again. One of my lifelong friends ended up physically assaulting me at a bar once as I was going to check on her due to her being in a corner alone. Turns out she was on PCP and took out some pent-up aggression. Needless to say, I haven't spoken to her since, even though she says it never happened. When someone voted for Trump. Sorry, while I do accept different views, opinions and love to discuss, we still need to be on the same page about some basic principles, like respect, racism and democratic values. Trump is a racist, rapist and narcissist with the IQ of a 4-year-old, and that's in absolute plain view. Became really good friends with my roommate over COVID. Ends up she's anti-vax. I've had friends die trying to get vaccines to their family. I'm not going to tolerate this bullshit. They were a Jehovah's Witness and wouldn't stop throwing it in my face. Finally, one day, I snapped and told them to keep their thoughts to themselves. They went on a rant. I just walked away and told them they lost my respect. I found out they used Reddit. The way they treated/cared for their dog, or any pet/animal for that matter. Got a close friend's hired on at my job. He had a horrible work ethic, and would constantly backtalk the boss. Nothing he screwed up was ever his fault. Despite the fact that we made good money, he always was complaining about being broke and behind on bills. He inevitably got fired, and got so behind on his car payments that his dad had to pull his 401k out early at a hefty fine to get out from under that loan he had co-signed. He let his dad do that knowing it would cost him so much. I haven't been able to look at him the same since. I know he could have avoided that if he had just taken some responsibility for his life, but instead he let his father pay the cost. My own teacher. On many occasions my teacher would have difficulty teaching us, often in math. He also had no clue what a period is, for girls, and when people explained it to him he was confused, and told the girl on her period she had 2 minutes, then when she left, she took more than 2 minutes, and called the office thinking she was hurt. He was a grade 8 teacher. He also would give us grade 2 to 5 work pretty often, which made me kinda annoyed that many of us weren't learning anything. When my dad refused to return a brand new phone that he picked up in a public toilet. He even asked me if I know how to decode the password/drawing patterns inside so he can clear everything. I lose my respect for him when the first thing he did is to remove the SIM card from that phone and had been hiding the phone for almost a month after I told him to return to the owner. I feel bad for the owner. A friend I am studying with telling me that not everyone should have the opportunity or right to study, as according to him too many people are studying solely because they can, and that mostly only people from families with an academia background or high income should be able to visit a university. As someone coming from a low-income family myself, this really felt insulting. Racism, sexism, homophobia, willful ignorance, violence, projected anger, and entitlement. We're all doing our best to live our lives here. Nobody got time for that nonsense, Karen. Evolve or GTFO. Watching people leave their shopping cart in the middle of a spot instead of walking it 30 feet to the carriage drop-off port. Disloyalty. Found out they voted for Biden. He told our mutual friends a secret I told him the day before. Seeing guys turn into Mr. Hyde on the field or on the ice once the game starts during friendly matches. When they started turning my friends against me. It hurts, but oh well, their loss. I was a fairly senior mid-level manager, and I discovered that my boss Peter, whom I had previously regarded as a mentor, had been sexually harassing some of my young employees. On the day I found out, I went to his house and talked to him about it. But he was drunk and incoherent. I warned him not to come to work the next day. He came to work anyways, and got recalled to HR, whereupon he was immediately put on administrative leave. Eventually he was terminated when they found the allegations were all true. This was 14 years ago, and the bitterness in my mouth remains today. I feel horrible just knowing that I never saw any of the signs until it was an utter mess. I'm just glad that I was able to have encouraging talks with all my employees afterwards. Poop in your shower when you let them stay for the weekend. Finding out that someone has lied to my face over and over again despite the fact that I have confronted the person about it several times and gave them enough chances to tell me the truth. Trump supporters, especially the so-called Christians that I used to work with who are all in with the Trump cult. As a well-known liar, cheat, and serial adulterer, I can't think of anyone other than Trump, who better represents the antithesis of Christian values. Anyone who espouses to live a Christian life and still supports Trump needs to look up the word hypocrite in the dictionary. When they don't stand up to the words they say but will hold you accountable on a slight slip. I saw them litter. As I was grieving from a pregnancy loss, a pregnant co-worker said I was thinking of getting rid of mine too. They used a highway transmission while off-roading. My stepdad has his issues, and we do not get along, but I lost all respect for him a few years ago. I was going through a phase where I wanted to join the Air Force. He was in the military for 6 years, served in Vietnam, and is now a 100% disabled veteran. I told him I was thinking about joining the Air National Guard. He looked me dead in my face and said he would not support me if I did. No discussion, no questions, nothing. Just said he would not support me. Any shred of respect I had for him before then was non-existent after that. My supervisor, he's married with kids but doesn't miss an opportunity to flirt up any girl who stands still long enough. Just from that I had low respect for him, but second he opened his mouth about the earth being flat took him to zero. Then on to that he believes that China faked the pandemic and Bill Gates microchipped the vaccine. This dude drinks steep from the Facebook Kool-Aid.